Hello, hello, how are you all doing? I wanted to check in with you. So we have the last quarter moon in Virgo tomorrow, and then we have the new moon. I do have Paco here with me. Can you see him? He's trying to get that big stick. It's not gonna work. So we have the last quarter moon in Virgo, and then we have the new moon in 15 degrees of Sagittarius, and I'm mostly going to be talking about that. This has been a mutable cycle, and I've talked about this a little bit in other things that you might have seen, but mutable cycles are all about change. They're all about really going with the flow, really leaving behind the old stuff, and we've had a huge shift with the nodes. We've had the nodes move from Leo Aquarius, which is fixed energy, very stubborn energy, and move into an initiating energy, which is Cancer Capricorn. Cancer, as we've seen, I kind of talked about this before it moved in, and you've seen it now with the news, is that really what's up is themes around how we treat mothers, how we treat the nurturers, how we treat the teachers, how we treat those who have our roots, and so indigenous cultures, that kind of thing. This is all going to be out for the next 18 months. Hopefully we will see some beautiful resolution and beautiful change with this. But this is all up, and so as we move into this new moon time, we're in right now in the releasing still time of looking at where we need to change, where we need to open our horizons and really invite in new fresh energy. How are you guys doing? I see that you're joining me, and this cup, thank you, Jonathan. I've had forever, and I just got it back from my ex's house, and he's so awesome. He let me take it back without being too annoyed with me. Side note, so that's a really big stick, Paco. Good job. Okay, so we have, I only have like 10% battery too. Anna, how are you guys doing? Because, yeah, I'm always, like, so intimidated by saying your name. There's certain names that I just never feel like I'm saying right. But I love you guys. Thank you for tuning in. So this new moon in Sagittarius, let's talk about it, okay? So it's beautiful. I did a whole thing on Jupiter in... Oh, thank you. Thank you, sweetie. I'm definitely needing a little... My Leo self needs a little, you know... little compliment every now and again, so thank you, I appreciate it. It's definitely not been the easiest week. So next week, as we move into new moon energy, is very exciting. We have the new moon in 15 degrees of Sagittarius. We're moving into this will be the last new moon before eclipse season, and eclipse season happens in... Oh, thank you. Okay, you guys, you're beautiful too. Okay, so you're making the Leo blush over here. Okay, so back to the astrology, right? Mars and Neptune. So Neptune has just gone direct. I talked about this in a post. If you haven't seen it, you might want to check it out. And Neptune and Mars are conjunct each other, and they are going to be squaring this new moon. And squaring the new moon is intense. Usually new moons are restful, they're quiet, but lately these new moons have been active. They've been really active, and this one is super active. Why? Well, because Mars does not like being in Pisces, and Mars is in Pisces. Mars likes to initiate, likes to do, likes to move the body forward. Pisces is like, what? Like, let's just dream. Let's just sleep longer. Let's just like wait for this wave to pass. Let's just like, you know, use our intuition. And yes, so much intensity. And so what I was saying is you really want to pay attention to your dreams. You want to dream longer, because the only way Mars can do its job in Pisces is through the subconscious, through the subconscious undoing. The action that Mars can take is undoing some of the trappings that we've made for ourselves, some of the limitations that we've made for ourselves. So when it's conjunct Neptune, which is the great dissolver in the zodiac, in the you know, archetypes, it's Mars is going in, and it's actively able to work with that Neptune energy to dissolve some of our past beliefs about ourselves. And some of the beliefs around, like, I think, even though we can't see it, right? Like for all of us who are like more liberal or, you know, more caring and kind, we can't see it happening, but there are changes happening with this more kind of cold-hearted world that we live in, and there are changes and shifts happening within the hearts of people. People are warming up, people are awakening, and so it's important for us to remember, if we're having a hard time, if we're having a hard few weeks, sometimes we're just making space for others to come into this awareness. I think about the Grinch, you know, when his heart started to grow. And really December is naturally just that time period where we are more introspective, where we are having to do this deep inner work. But it's from that deep inner work, that micro work, that the macro is happening, right? Oh my gosh, what's going on with my hair? Yeah, I can't see your full comment, but I totally, and going to bed earlier, I'm writing down your dreams. So I'll share really quickly, because my phone's going to die, a dream that I had. So I was like, I have this perception, and all of our perceptions are just from our own making, right? I have this perception that I'm kind of invisible. Like in my work as a human, I'm kind of invisible, and I'm like, where does this come from, right? And I didn't actually think about it, but my grandmother, bless her heart, actively made me feel like I was invisible. So like when she would come to visit, when I remember being 8 and being so excited, being like, Grandma, Grandma, and she was like, I don't know who you are. I don't recognize you. I don't know who you are. And then at my mom's funeral, my sister, my brother, and I are standing there. She says, hello to my sister, hello to my brother, and I'm sorry, who are you again? And I'm like, oh, well, no wonder why I feel invisible, because my own blood doesn't even recognize me, right? And so I had this dream last night that it was like my grandma and this other being that was her. I'm going to keep this short, I promise. But it was this other being that was her that was driving, and it was her, or like her soul, that was like in the passenger seat. And in the passenger seat, I was walking out of a house, and they were going to hit me, this like duo. Paco, come here. They were going to hit me, and the passenger, her soul, said to the driver, watch out, there's Abby. And it was in this flash moment of remembering this dream that I was like, oh, like from a soul level, she does recognize me. It's like this whole perception that I've built in my head around being invisible comes from this story that I was telling myself about not being visible to the people that matter most to me. I've been crying a lot lately, guys. So, don't be surprised if I start crying. But what I'm saying is, Pisces time is all about dissolving those old stories, dissolving those old ways of being, because they're not serving us. And the truth be told is that we perceive things and then we create a reality based around that. So this is the time for us to really dissolve those old stories. Okay, and I didn't talk about a lot of other things. Paco, I'm so proud of you. That's a great stick. I see you. I see you, man. And okay, so Chiron is going direct on December 8th, right after this new moon. Mercury goes direct right hours before this new moon. Like, it's pretty phenomenal. When you study astrology, you start to recognize that everything has a pattern, everything makes sense, everything does have a divine way of being, even though sometimes it's super ugly, and it's super like being an astrologer when you know things are happening and then you see them play out on the human landscape of, like, you know, just like sad things happening. You're just kind of like, well, why, you know? The world is so simple and yet so complicated, and all we have to really remember is that there have been many times on our planet where things have been wonka-doodle, and guess what? Half the time we wouldn't even know about it. I'd be here in the woods with my dog, and I'd be like, the world is beautiful, look at the sky, look at the trees, and I wouldn't know what was happening in Florida, and, you know, for better or worse. But I'm just saying, like, there's many times on our planet where things have been really wonky. It's just that our access to knowing about these things, and honestly, like, having to be aware, like, as a responsible citizen, being aware of what's happening is just part of being human now. Whereas before, we just had to survive, and which was hard enough, but, like, we didn't have to really think about others as much as we do now. And now, guess what? We do. And this is, it's also like the age of Aquarius as well, is like thinking about community in a greater way. Hi Sabrina, how are you doing? Okay, this is like I never stay on topic, so I'm really trying. The new moon next week, super big for big picture, thinking about your life. If you're on my mailing list, check your email this week, because I'm doing a free PDF just with this big energy, because Jupiter is in its home sign of Sagittarius. We have Mercury going direct in Sagittarius, and we have this new moon in Sagittarius. So big Sagittarian energy, and so I'm doing a free PDF, and I'll also be sending a new moon meditation. This is a really big new moon. It's no, it's not. It's at 15 degrees. It's midway through Sagittarius time, and then we're going to move into Capricorn time. And Capricorn time is going to offer us this huge, big new moon on the south node of the moon, which is our collective past. And I'll be very interested to see what comes of that. But for our own personal work within the collective, what can we do that's going to satisfy us as a human, as a citizen of the world, right? So that all being said, we also have an opposition next week with, so whenever we have a square, we're having a square, let me stick with the square of the new moon. It's not as restful. So don't expect, next week, sometimes with the new moons, they're very restful. Next week, not so much. Very active energy, very active energy. And then there's this opposition of Uranus, which is retrograde in Aries. Oh man, that Uranus retrograde in Aries. And we're not going to see Uranus in Aries for a long, long time again. And this last little revisit is making us all look at changes that need to be done in the way of how we personally identify ourselves in this world, and also how we initiate and how we make changes on the global scale. And so as it moves back, it will move back into Taurus and when it turns direct. But for right now, it's opposing Venus, which is interesting because Venus rules Taurus. And Venus is going to move into Scorpio. Venus has gone direct, but it's still in Libra. And then it's going to move through Scorpio, and it's going to oppose Uranus. And when Uranus opposes Venus, it's about how so Uranus is more of a collective planet, it's more of a non-personal planet, but Venus is a personal planet. And so it's how we want to give and receive, energy, only what we have to offer. And Uranus changes to that. But since it's retrograde, again, it's not a huge time, even though it's an action-filled time. All this stuff is happening on the internal. And, Mercury retrograde is also the internal. Venus has gone retrograde and it's the internal. And right now, Venus is moving direct, but it's going over the landscape that it already passed over. So it's a revisiting of what came up at the retrograde time. And so this is really a great time to just rest, pay attention to your dreams, do healing work if you can, and journal. Let's see. Yeah, that's about all I got. And then I wanted to tell you guys I'm doing year ahead. So if you wanted a year ahead reading for a transit reading for the next year, going over the eclipses, how they're going to affect your chart, and then just big